Hello, everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to today's event, which I personally am really excited to be a part of. So thank you for joining us. Our event today is called Disability Inclusion, Shaping Accessible Futures. And it is held today on the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. It's really wonderful, actually, to see so many of you joining us from around the world. My name is Helen Etheridge, and I am the British Council's Global Lead for Alumni UK. And I'm joining you today from London, which is surprisingly fairly sunny. So I hope you're all well. Before we get started, I just really love to get a sense of who is in the room with us virtually today. So if you wouldn't mind, we were going to put a poll onto the screen, which will ask you a question, which is, did you study with the UK? So you're a UK graduate, or do you have a different background? You're all incredibly welcome. I'm just curious to see who we have joining us. If you wouldn't mind just clicking that button, and hopefully we will have a view of who's here with us this morning. Thank you very much. Oh, look at that. Interesting. Okay, so what I'm seeing on my screen at the moment is that actually the majority of people here are sort of external stakeholders, partners, haven't necessarily studied with the UK. This event is for absolutely everybody. I'm going to give you a bit of background to Alumni UK, and you're all welcome, whether you studied with the UK or not. A quick bit of housekeeping maybe before we go into the event. All of the sessions today are going to be recorded, and you'll be able to access the recordings on this lovely Zoom events platform for 1 week until next Tuesday. Please, if you have any questions, do place them into the Q&A box that you ought to be able to see on your screen. I've got some colleagues who will be able to respond to some of those in text there, and if we've got some time at the end of the session, we'll try to answer some of those. And there is closed captioning available as well. We also hope to provide you with a certificate of attendance as well for today. Today's event is designed to be collaborative and action-focused, exploring how we together can build truly inclusive education and work environments. And we're all going to hear some really inspirational stories from UK alumni from around the world, and advocates to exchange ideas with peers and hopefully leave with some practical insights to drive change in our own settings. This event, as I say, is for anybody interested in disability inclusion: Alumni UK members, employers, higher education providers, and everybody else. Let me just take you through what we have planned for today. We know it's a fairly long schedule, so please do feel free to join the sessions that interest you most or work with your time today. So you're currently in this first session, Welcome and Introduction to the Disability Inclusion Community of Practice. We're going to be joined shortly by my colleague Mark from the British Council as well, our Director of Cultural Engagement and Disability Champion, who's going to say a few words about that. And I'm pleased to be joined this morning as well by a couple of members of our steering group, and also Dan, who is working very closely with us on building this community. Then we're going to take an hour's networking break, and we're going to dive then into a really interesting session on workplaces specifically, so building inclusive workplaces. And it's a conversation with leading disability specialists and practitioners from around the world on evidence-based approaches to workplace inclusion. Then a very short break for 15 minutes, and we regroup to look at the world of tertiary education, so advancing disability inclusion in that environment. And we're going to be examining research into the experience of international students with disabilities, with some recommendations as well from our alumni for creating those inclusive environments. We then have our final break, and then I really hope you can all join us at 1:30 UK time for our keynote talk from Dr. Ola Aburaib, who is Director of the Global Disability Fund Secretariat. So I'm really looking forward to that. Just a few last words before I hand over to Mark. Today's event, for anybody who's unaware, is brought to you by the British Council. If you don't know us, we are the UK's international organisation for cultural and educational opportunities. And the British Council runs something called Alumni UK, which you've heard me mention a few times there. Essentially, it's a global network for anybody who's studied with a UK university as an international student. So that could be in the UK itself or through online study or transnational education as well. We also welcome people who did short-term study placements here. Through the programme, we offer professional development opportunities for our community, networking, and occasionally some grant-funded opportunities to tackle global challenges as well. Our network includes around 138,000 members now, continues to grow. So it's truly global. That's really kind of, for those of you who are part of the alumni community and haven't been involved in too much of our work until now, this is your chance to get involved. Do connect with us. There's a lot more beyond today's event. So that's enough for me for now. I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Mark, who is going to share a few more thoughts about today and our community with you. So over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Helen, thanks so much and welcome everyone. And yeah, really warm welcome on behalf of the British Council. It's really lovely to be here. As Helen says, my name is Mark Stevens. I'm the director for the culture engagement team at the British Council, and we are a group of around 1,000 British Council colleagues. Everywhere that there is a British Council office, there's likely to be a member of the culture engagement team, and we are focused on all of the work that the British Council does in our sector. So all the work that we're doing in arts and culture, excuse me, the work that we do in education, in English, our schools work, and also our research and insight. So the things that we try to find out about and know to help us be much better in our work around the world. And as Helen says, we're a cultural relations organisation, and our mission is to contribute to a more peaceful and prosperous world. That's what we're about. This is why we're established. We're in about 100 places, but we're actually working in more than 200. So even if we're not physically present, there's an opportunity for people to work with us and engage in our programs remotely. So that's who I am. That's our department. I also have another hat at the British Council, which is Disability Champion. And this is a role that I took on, I think, just over a year ago on the back of a number of conversations I'd had with colleagues and with some partners, but principally colleagues who were talking about their lived experiences at the organisation. And it was clear then and now there's a huge amount of work that we need to do and we want to do to build a much more inclusive workplace for everyone in our organisation and also everyone that works with us. And that's one of the reasons it's so good to be here today. So Helen, thank you so much for inviting me and for Shmail and other British Council colleagues as well. Let me just say a little bit about disability inclusion and our approach at the organisation. So we know that this is much more than just a policy statement, a policy position. We know that it is really about collective strength. It's about drawing on everyone's expertise, insight and experience to create the kind of world that we want to live in. And certainly at the British Council, the kind of organisation that I want to be proud to be a part of. We know from our own experience that when you remove barriers, we open doors to new talent, to fresh ideas and much stronger and more effective partnerships, which is one of the reasons today's so good and the timing is so perfect. And Helen mentioned, we're a global community of up to 138,000 people, and there are many, many more people that we work with around the world. So a call to action, I think, is to try and increase the number of people who are in our alumni program. Because the more of us that can get behind this, the more of us that work together in a spirit of inclusion, the more effective we're going to be. So that's my sort of request, please. And we know that when we work together, that the benefits are really widespread, both for organisations, but for communities and for us all as individuals. So today, as Helen says, we're marking the International Day of Persons with Disability, but we're also launching a new global community of the UK alumni. And we're hoping very much that this group will help us improve, just get much better at what we're doing, supporting greater inclusion, sharing your experiences, but also contributing to some of the solutions that address some of the challenges that we know that people face. Let me just say a few words, if I may, just around our own organisational priorities. So how we're trying to contribute within our organisation to a more inclusive workplace, but a more inclusive world. So we've got, when I took on the role, we worked to establish 4 main priorities. And these are the areas that we're all focusing on. And they're all, when I tell you what they are, you'll see very clearly that they're all about removing barriers that hinder inclusion, all of the things that are either intentional or unintentionally preventing a more inclusive workplace and more inclusive engagement in our programming around the world. So we've settled on work that we need to do to align our governance and our processes so that they're clear and that they're consistent. We're in 100 places. That's 100 different cultural operating contexts that we're operating in at least. And we know in every place around the world, of course, there'll be a multitude of factors also as part of the environment that we're operating in. So just trying to ensure that our governance and our processes are clear and consistent, making the organization easier for everyone to work in. So that was about making workplace adjustments easier and more reliable for our disabled colleagues. And we know plenty of feedback says that that was a challenge for us. Improving digital accessibility across our websites and all of our platforms. I said we're in 100 places, but working in 200. So we know that the vast majority of people that we engage with online and digitally. So that was incredibly important for us. And then finally, the fourth area, which was about supporting external partners and stakeholders to participate fully in our work. So that's not just about the digital accessibility piece, but around all the touch points where we engage with organizations. How do we make that as accessible as possible for everyone who works with us? So we've taken those priorities, turned them into a series of actions. We have a comprehensive work plan, all of which is intended to make our systems more inclusive by improving access to work and to learning and to ensuring that our digital spaces are accessible to everyone. We know that we still have a long way to go, so your insight and the experiences are going to be incredibly helpful for us. And we're hoping those actions, coupled with the global alumni community, that together, if we harness all of our energy and focus, will deliver the kind of change that we know that we want to make across the organisation. But to say a little bit now about the Alumni UK disability inclusion community, Helen's touched on a little bit of it already. So Alumni UK is part of our higher education work, and it connects, as Helen says, 138,000 people around the world, international UK alumni who've had an experience of learning either in the UK or with the UK. And we know that that broad group has a wide range of experiences and needs, which is why for us disability inclusion is so important, so that we're acting on what we know matters to that group. So we're launching the disability inclusion community today, an online space where alumni can share ideas, can collaborate, and can raise awareness about disability inclusion globally. And for us, the community is incredibly important for a number of different reasons. I think the first is that it's going to help build our understanding of what works and what doesn't. So the community's diversity is going to help us ensure that we're tailoring our approaches appropriately to different places. And I hope, well, we all hope that the alumni with disabilities will share what works and critically what doesn't work for them. So based on their own experiences, and that in turn will help shape what we're able to offer to others. The space the community will also be a space for collaboration. Members who care really deeply about inclusion will be great partners for our education and cultural programs, making sure that they're inclusive, that they're meaningful, and they have the kind of impact that we're all committed to. So, for example, you can help provide input into information that we're going to share with students coming to the UK. This is a very practical, hands-on, real thing that we can do to help ensure that people coming to the UK to study have meaningful information before they arrive and when they arrive, so that they get the most out of their experience here at the UK. And we hope also that the alumni group will help us improve our digital accessibility. So sharing your insight, giving us your advice on our websites, the platforms that we're using to make these as accessible as possible. And one idea that we are already considering is asking for alumni to review and feedback on improvements that we're making in real time, so that we're able to adjust and adapt as we go through. So I hope that gives you a sense of why the community is really important to us. I'm going to hand to Helen in a minute, who's joined by two members of our steering group, and they're going to say a little bit more about the community. So I'll just close by saying, if you believe in inclusion as we do, please do help us make the alumni community as effective and impactful as possible. I hope that you find that we're an open organization, that we're open to learning and to feedback, and that collectively we can deliver the kind of change that I know everyone here on the call, but many, many others are committed to making. So thanks very much for listening to me. Thanks so much for your time. And Helen, thanks again for inviting me. I hope the event goes really well.
Thanks so much, Mark. It's good to have you with us today. And I think Mark's covered a lot there, really, of what we're hoping to do with the community. I'll say a little bit more in detail about it, and then I'm going to bring in my colleagues from the steering group to talk, because they're the best people to hear from, really, because they're giving their time to this work. But in terms of where Alumni UK sits with all of this, I suppose it's worth me saying that what our work does is really providing that platform for alumni, a lot of whom are already change makers in their local communities or further afield. And in the British Council, just providing some support, some platform, we can actually amplify that brilliant work that they are already doing and bring them together. Amplifying alumni voices and helping alumni to use their skills to tackle global challenges and bringing in that UK experience that they've had is really central to our work. Mark, I mean, there was communication that went out to our colleagues at British Council this morning, and I noted it said the World Health Organization has estimated that around 16% of the global population experience significant disability, which is higher than I personally had realized. And certainly many people still face exclusion in education, in employment, and wider society. So last year, within Alumni UK, we worked with Dr. Carol Evans and others to carry out some research with our Alumni UK members who identify as disabled. And they told us that they really would like a space to build collective power, to share experiences and to drive change. And that's kind of why actually we created this community, to be global, to be action focused, and a place where alumni can come together to bring about change, but also to support each other, because this is a real lived shared experience that people have. So the community is all about enhancing awareness, building stronger understanding of disability inclusion, not just within our alumni community, but beyond, which is why I'm so glad that so many of you here aren't just alumni on the call today. And really importantly, is supporting the professional growth of our alumni, which is what Alumni UK is all about, bringing these people together to connect and learn, but so that actually they've got an opportunity to take on some real impact-driven projects. And we are led by our members. So we have a steering group of alumni who actually, it was a really competitive process. We received many, many applications, and we have this small group now of alumni who give of their time. These are busy people who are doing their own jobs, and so I'm incredibly grateful that they're giving their time to our community. And perhaps now is a good time for me to bring them in fact. So we have the steering group represented in this morning's session by two colleagues. One is Farid Gombilla. He serves as a disability inclusion facilitator with the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations under the MasterCard's We Can Work project. And we also have Priyasha Sharma. She's a project associate at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and an external consultant to the World Health Organization in India. So a really, really warm welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for joining us. I have some questions that I'd love to ask you both, and I'm sure people in the audience probably have some as well. So do put those in, and we'll probably have some time at the end to come to those. But I'm going to use my privilege now as host to ask you some. So first of all, maybe Priya, if I go to you first, and I'll come to you, Farid, afterwards with the same question, but very simply, would you both just mind introducing yourself to everybody, a little bit about yourself and where you're speaking to us from today? So Priya, first over to you.
Of course, Helen. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction already. I'm really honored to be sharing this stage today with so many accomplished professionals. And if I were to just introduce myself in a nutshell, well, my professional life has already been introduced by Helen, so I will talk about some of my lived experiences with disability. I live with invisible disabilities, which are quite hard to, see at first glance. So I live with bipolar and I live with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so my experience as an international student in the UK was shaped both by opportunity and barriers. Um, but I think in the 22 years of my life, it was in the UK that I received proper support for my mental health issues. So it was definitely a turning point. And I'm really honored to be here today, and I'm really honored to contribute to such an inspiring and pioneering steering group.
Thanks so much, Priya, and we'll come back to you soon for a bit more. But let's go over to Farid for a little introduction from you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope you can hear me, please.
Perfectly. Yeah, I can hear you really well, Farid.
Okay, great, great, great. So, like you said, Helen, I am Farid. I am a disability inclusion facilitator with the MasterCard's Week and Work program. I also do a bit of assistive technology training. So I train persons with disability to use technology, whether in their business or in their work life or in education, anything that works for them. And I have also done some work in terms of providing support to people, disability inclusion training and consultancy work for different organizations. And for me, my UK experience was definitely one of my very most exciting periods of my life. It opened my eyes, I mean, figuratively speaking, to the world of assistive technology, the world of, inclusion support that exists for persons with disability. And I'll definitely be speaking more about that. And I feel like that experience is one that a lot more of our alumni or people who haven't, left their various countries yet should also experience. And by the way, I'm talking from Ghana. I'm Ghanaian, I'm based in Ghana, and I'm happy to join you this morning.
Thanks so much, Farid. Brilliant, brilliant introduction there from you and from Priya. I think you touched on something interesting there, actually, about that formative experience that your time in the UK was, about leaving your country. I think something that I always think that brings our alumni community together is that the majority of them are people who have gone and taken quite big risks. They want to go and experience something different. They're brave, and to do that with sort of added diverse needs as well is absolutely commendable to all of you. I think the next question I wanted to ask was actually specifically to the steering group. I've mentioned to everybody in the audience that we've recently sort of brought this steering group together to lead our community of practice that we're launching today. And I'm just really interested to know sort of what motivated you both, seeing as I'm sure you're very busy, to join this steering group. So Priya, if you wouldn't mind going first.
Yeah, no worries. And I just remembered I forgot to tell where I'm joining from. I'm joining from India today. So, yeah, now coming to the question at hand, why did I join the steering group? Well, I wanted to apply because where I live, which is in the global south, invisible disabilities as well as visible disabilities, both of them are not taken seriously, unfortunately, in many of the institutions, not just educational, but also like government institutions. So often we see in conversations globally that disability narratives are centered around visible disabilities and also global north contexts. So while a lot of us come from places where accessibility and mental health are still very heavily stigmatized. So I was motivated to join the steering group because I wanted to share my lived experience in a way that shaped the future of, the future students, future alumni for UK education so that they also get to access the experience that I got to access of disability inclusion, the support, the mentorship, and just acceptance. And I think that's the biggest thing I would like to facilitate. And so this steering group, it really allows me to bring together my own experience, my research background, and a policy lens so that we can actually move from individual stories to practical changes in how universities and employers specifically can support disabled or differently abled people. Yes.
Thank you, Priya. Yeah, I hear a strong message there about you wanting to sort of give back, I
Yeah.
suppose, from the support you felt that you had and improving the situation for current and future international students. Let's move to Farid. Farid, would you mind sharing a little bit about your motivation for joining the group?
Okay, great. So I have done a lot of disability inclusion or advocacy work in Ghana for the last 6 years, I think, or a little over that. So a lot of my experience has been centered in Ghana. And so for me, the motivation was how can I take some of what I have learned from the various challenges I've witnessed in Ghana, together with the contrasting experiences I had from studying in the UK, to a more global audience where I can combine my Ghanaian reality, my lived experiences, my UK experiences, with, I can take all of that and take that to a global audience who would have more perspective for me to grow as an individual, as an advocate. That is one. So to gain that, additional global context, and also to use my voice as an advocate to create other opportunities for other persons with disability. One thing I would say is it really took a lot for me to gain funding to come and study in the UK. And so for me, I know a lot of my, friends or other persons with disability, especially in Africa, who struggle to gain these opportunities. And for me, it's great for persons with disability, especially from, the developing world and Africa and other parts of the developing world, to gain these experiences and these exposures to be able to serve as advocates of inclusion and learn best practices from places like the UK. So for me, it's to give me the platform to create opportunities for other people, whether it's through policy, whether it's through our own advocacy efforts as steering group members, to create opportunities for other people to experience, the UK education and all the support it comes with. So for me, that is one of my biggest motivations. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Farid. Yeah, I think advocacy is going to be a huge part of the community, that collective voice, and that connection to kind of a global professional community as well is significant. You've both touched on a little bit about your personal experience and as international students in the UK. I think people might be interested to hear sort of those your personal background that you shared at the beginning, how that was for you in the UK as a student. What aspects of inclusion, accessibility, so how did that shape your journey? What sort of support did you receive or potentially lack of sometimes? And Priya, would you mind starting us off?
No, I wouldn't mind. And right. So, like I said in my introduction, I was 22 when I came to UK, and that was the first time that I really felt like I was being supported in my struggles, and coming from a place where mental health is not even taken seriously or even believed to be real. Yeah, so I've UK really helped me um accept myself. So that is another aspect of just how revolutionary the support has been in my life. Um, so my journey started with the summary of reasonable adjustments. That is something you are offered to fill out if you feel you need additional support in your assignments or in your exams. So that was the first step of me kind of integrating into a system which accepted people however they were and whichever walk of life they were coming from and whichever struggles they were facing at the moment, without judgment. Key point being without judgment. Um, so once that was done, um, the sum although the summary made it clear that I would receive notes prior to the class, I would receive slides prior to the lectures, and that I would receive recordings of the lectures as well, and I would receive extra time for my assignments and extra time for my exams. Although I did receive the extra time, but the I don't know, the lectures and the notes and all of those things were not facilitated. Um, and even so that is one of the issues that I did face. But apart from that, I think the entire staff at UCL um, were amazing. They were amazing and very supportive, very non-judgmental, and always there. So there was consistency, there was support, there was non-judgmental hearing. And I think that is what made all of the difference. But again, like all of the things that were supposed to be done according to the summary of adjustments, not all of them were still touched upon. But whatever did happen, it did make a big difference in my life.
Thank you, Priya. Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to hear that there was a positive experience, but still definitely a lot of room for improvement. I mean, Fareed, would you mind sharing a little bit about your experience? I know you were elsewhere in the UK.
So yes, I was at SOAS University of London. And I must say that before I came to the UK, I had received some level of inclusion support from Ghana, the University of Ghana, where I had my undergraduate degree. And so I was used to that level of support. But then once I got admission to SOAS, one of the things that particularly impressed me was even before I got to the UK, I had a conversation with the team at the disability unit of SOAS to discuss my reasonable accommodation needs. And that for me was quite impressive because it showed a certain level of intentionality towards, providing me the needed support. And then once I transitioned into the UK, in fact, one of the things that they also did for me as an, additional step was to arrange an airport pickup for me. Because as you said, Helen, it can be quite challenging, navigating this whole international travel experience all by yourself, especially when it's a place you are traveling. That was not the first time I came to the UK though, but that was the first time I was traveling all by myself. So I really appreciated that support as well. And then when I got to the UK, I sat with the team again. We went over my reasonable accommodation needs, and all the things they say would be provided were provided. So I had, a dedicated library support, a dedicated IT support. I had a notes taker, which amused me initially because it's something I wasn't used to in Ghana. In Ghana, as someone who is visually impaired, what I would usually do when I went for lectures was I put one ear of my earpiece, put one earpiece in my ear. So as I'm listening to my jaws and typing, and I'm also listening to, as I'm listening to my lecturer, I'm also listening to my screen reader and typing. So that was quite a challenge. But to have a note taker who would accompany me to every class was also quite interesting. I had some challenges though, but I'm sure we'll come to that a little later in the conversation. Yeah, but all in all, I would say it was a very transformative experience, and it really shaped my perspective on what kind of support was available for persons with disability and what we can do back home here in Ghana or even across the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Fareed. Not to tire you out, but I think I might stick with you. You mentioned there the challenges. I love talking about the positives, but I think today we do want to have some sort of honest conversations and learnings from one another. Would you mind touching on that? Some of those obstacles that you did face in your time in the UK.
Okay. Do I go first?
Go for it, Fareed.
Right.
I'm mixing us up. Thank you.
Okay, no, that's all right. So one of the challenges I'll say, so like I said, I had a dedicated library support, The only challenge there was that the turnaround time was quite long. So I would submit a request for certain documents I'm not able to, find on my own, or certain documents that are not accessible to me as a screen reader user for it to be converted into an accessible format. But it took quite a while for me to, receive those documents back. So say I submitted a request on a Wednesday, it might take up until the next Monday or late, maybe a Friday at the earliest, which might be too late, given how fast-paced the course was. So that was a challenge I faced. What I did was eventually I got, Census Access, which is an online, application that helps me convert some of these inaccessible documents. And the other challenge I would say, at the time, I didn't fully appreciate this as a challenge, but I feel like one of the things that the team at the disability unit could have done for me as an international student was to explain the full range of support services available beyond the university. So what they did was to tell me what the university could support me with, like a laptop, a recorder, and the note taker, and all of the other things I've mentioned already. But things like a rail pass and maybe transport services and other things that I could have benefited from as a person with disability in the UK, I didn't know about these things until much later on. And I'll say the other challenge was, well, that was nobody's fault, but I was in the UK when COVID happened. So unfortunately, I couldn't fully enjoy half of my stay there. But I mean, like we say, it's part of the experience as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that COVID sort of took that time from you. And yeah, that is particularly difficult. But there's a key learning there, I think, Fareed, for us as the community of practice as well. I think Mark mentioned earlier, a practical thing we could do as, one of our immediate steps is that sort of up-to-date information for incoming international students with disability. And something like, a list of those quick wins, or things that can help you navigate the local environment would be brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. True. There might be, I'm sure, things out there already. I know UKISA, for example, are very good at giving such advice, but some signposting, I think, would be great. Thanks so much, Fareed. Priya, was there anything? I know you touched a little bit on obstacles when you spoke earlier, but is there anything you wanted to add from your side?
Yeah, I think the experience of moving to the UK for the first time, it can be very overwhelming, not just for me, but for many people. And then if you're having mental health issues, if you're neurodivergent, it can be extra hard for you because many neurodivergents like me, we face execution function dysfunction. And so I would say something that I lacked in was being more vocal about the kind of support that I needed. I was too focused on doing everything on my own and just, doing everything at once. But I'm really glad that I came across the Student Welfare Association and at UCL, and they did provide a lot of support to the students through, these quick 30 or 1 hour sessions where you just chat with an advisor. You tell them your problems and they tell you, steps. What do you need to do right now? What do you need to do tomorrow? Because sometimes you're just so overwhelmed with taking care of yourself, taking care of your assignments, taking care of rent, or taking care of your job. You need someone to kind of go through your thoughts and sort it out. So I think one challenge was the homesickness and not being able to express my support or ask for support at the right time. So I think if anyone takes something from this, do not be scared to ask for support because there is support, and if there is not support where you are right now, you will definitely find it, but you need to ask for it. That is the first step.
That's helpful. Thank you, Priya. And I suppose, you explained that journey from where you came from, where there wasn't such an understanding for these kinds of conditions. And so I suppose it's something to get used to, isn't it? That people are open to providing that support and to listening. I am conscious of time, but we've told people some details about the community that we're launching today. For anybody who's joined us in the last few minutes, just to let you know that this community of practice is for international graduates of the UK, but we are very, very keen to work with any external partners as well. I hope that one of my colleagues in the chat could perhaps share the Alumni UK email address, because if you're interested in working with us, with our alumni, we'd love to hear from you. And for those of you who are alumni and want to join the community, which I hope you do, then we will also, if we haven't done so already, share the sign up link there in the chat. I should mention that, this community, it's one of these things where you can sort of give as much as you like and are able to do. Some of you may want to join because you want to have updates and attend events from time to time. Others will have more capacity or more interest in really engaging in the project. So don't feel that in joining you have to sort of be leading the group, I suppose is what I wanted to say. So back to Priya and Farid. I suppose, speaking of the community of practice, would you mind sharing a little bit about what you hope that this group is going to achieve for alumni and students and the wider community globally? Farid, if you wouldn't mind, I'll go to you. What's your hope for the community?
I'm hoping that we can create a global network of persons with disability who are change makers, who are willing to, contribute to policy reforms, to advocacy efforts, basically to any effort that would help bring significant reforms, especially for not just for Alumni UK alumni, but for people who are interested in pursuing an education in the UK, for people who haven't even pursued an education in the UK, but have shared similar goals in terms of disability support. We are hoping that the Alumni UK Disability Inclusion Steering Group would be able to facilitate some of these networking, and we would also be able to serve as a platform for targeted research at various assistive technology, whether it's assistive technology needs or various gaps in our system in terms of data collection and data gathering, because that is one of the major areas or major gaps that exist within our disability inclusion movement across the globe. Getting the right information or the right data to be able to inform what policies would work is important. So I'm hoping that the steering group or the committee of practice in general is able to facilitate some of these efforts and basically bring a lot of change makers, I call them, together to push an agenda for growth, for development of persons with disability all over the world.
Brilliant. Thank you, Farid. And I see that research, that data point as a real, hopefully a strength of our community, because we have that global network. We have people in communities around the world who can input. So I'm quite excited about that part. And Priya, how about you? What are your hopes for the community?
I have really high hopes for this community. And I think that, like Farid said, this community can become a really dependable, practical resource where students and alumni will know how to approach disclosures, adjustments, and navigating recruitments. And most importantly, I think, like Farid said, throughout this global movement of disability inclusion, I think we are championing awareness, but something which is very important is kind of agreeing on the definition of disability, because it varies from region to region. So through our research, we're also aiming to kind of have reliable definitions, reliable inclusions, reliable adjustments, and kind of a formalized and uniform approach to disability inclusion, because there's just so much variety in how people with disabilities are treated across the world. So we would really like to facilitate that. And as a community, I think because we would have such a big network, we will connect disabled alumni from places like India, Ghana, and the UK, so that we do not reinvent all of the solutions from scratch or in isolation. Um, so yeah, I think these are my hopes, and I'm confident that we will achieve these.
Thank you, Priya. I love that last thing you said about not sort of reinventing the wheel, that actually there's good practice around the world that we can all be learning from and sharing amongst each other. I think we should write that that one down for the group. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Priya and Farid. I've loved speaking with you. I'm going to, if people want to speak with Priya and Farid, I mean, I know probably some of you are busy in the QA box and we've been sort of busy chatting here, but you can actually see some videos of Priya and Farid and our other steering group members in the Zoom events lobby. There's a videos tab and there's some brilliant footage there of our steering group alumni. So please do watch those during the networking break. But for now, I would like to bring in Dan Sewell, if that's okay. So Dan is creative director at Create Adapt, amongst many other roles, I think, and he is working with us in the creation of this community. And I wonder, Dan, if you'd be happy to share just a little bit with us about the journey that we're currently on in sort of building this community and specifically around that kind of digital environment to bring people together. Anything you're able to share would be, I think, great learning for anyone on the call.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, British Council. Thank you, Farid and Priyasha, for a really inspiring talk. So my name's Dan Su. I'm based in London, UK. For those who need the description, I'm British Chinese, wearing a dark green shirt with a beard and dark hair in a top knot. I wear many hats. I'm a facilitator, educator, consultant, and at Glastonbury Festival, I've been working there for about the last 15 years. We've been pioneering a disability program for deaf and disabled trainees who are trying to overcome barriers into the creative industries. And also, at the moment, I've been leading for British Council a community of practice, which we've been calling the Seed Pod, which is about climate skills. So I'm really excited to be helping to shape and to help steer the community of practice here for Alumni UK on disability inclusion. What we've been doing is building a platform, place for people to connect, to develop networks, to share learning, everything that we've just been talking about, and grounded in the social model of disability. What that includes is a digital environment that we've been building over the last few weeks and months, in fact, through the Seed Pod, which will support the vision for this community of practice. So what I'm going to do is, in a second, I'm going to share a screen which will show you one of two parts of that digital environment. So if we could bring that up. This right here is what we've been using for the community of practice, which we're going to be using here as well. This is on Notion. If anyone is familiar with Notion, it's a really great, intuitive, easy to use platform. I like to think of it as a second brain. So just to give you a quick insight into what it looks like, a bit of a cheeky preview. This is essentially a series of folders or a series of micro pages. Imagine it like a micro website. We've added some accessibility adjustments that people are able to tweak themselves, which will also include screen readers, amongst many other things, such as changing the font sizes and the contrast and so on. And essentially the way that Notion works is it's a little bit like a Google Drive, but more fun. As an example here, we have an introduction to Alumni UK, which includes the objectives, our approaches, principles. It's a bit of our North Star, if you like. And if I should to show you another page, for example, we have a space for people to add their project updates. There's a shared community space for learning and resources and reading that people may come across that they wish to share. Over here, as an example from our Seed Pod Climate Skills Program, we also have a little bit like a directory of the people who have joined the community of practice so that you can connect with people and learn a little bit more about the work that they're doing. So, for example, here on the Climate Skills Program, we've got people from China, India, Indonesia, and I've seen we've had many people here from all around the world, which is really exciting to be able to share our experiences and learnings around disability inclusion. Here we've got a page which is a digital toolbox. Principally, like I say, we'll be using Notion as our base camp, WhatsApp, which I'll talk to you about in a second, and obviously Zoom here. And this is just a bit of an insight into the type of tools and resources we will be using. Other things to perhaps show you, Priyasha mentioned it earlier actually when talking about lecture notes and recordings. So for the Seed Pods, we have been collecting all of the slides and all of the video recordings so they can all be in one place. So this is all very much with accessibility in mind. This is really the steering, the kind of the steer for everything that we're doing. And it's very exciting to be able to kind of give you a first glance at this. This is still in development at the moment. Once you register and sign up, you'll be sent a link to join this once it's all ready. There is also a WhatsApp community, and the WhatsApp community will be split up into a number of different groups. So at the moment, for example, we've got groups for the threads for the steering groups. There'll also be a central hub for everyone to be able to connect and share in the kind of WhatsApp type space. And again, once you register and once that's fully built, we'll be sending out a link for everybody to join. So do follow the registration links that will be popping up in the chat throughout the day. Just to let you know, we are working to ensure that the platform will be as accessible and as inclusive as possible. One thing I've learned from the last few years working at Glastonbury around accessibility, which is an incredibly difficult and complex environment to do that, if you can imagine, if anyone's familiar with the festival. So we know that inclusivity is a constant journey. We're here to learn, we're here to make mistakes, we're here to learn from each other and build together. And one thing that has been really formative in what we've been doing at Glastonbury Festival is that mutual understanding, that cooperation, that understanding that we are all in this together. So we really do welcome feedback on the Notion, on the WhatsApp, throughout the disability inclusion community of practice, and just know that we are a live example, both with the digital platforms and the disability inclusion community of practice, which I'll be helping to facilitate. We know that we've got so many people here from around the world with so many different experiences, both positive and negative, that this is a really exciting, very rare opportunity to bring together and crystallize a lot of those learnings into the same space, and for us to, like I say, learn, make mistakes, and amplify the incredible work that you're all doing individually and collectively. So also, we'll be inviting a couple of the steering group to help test feedback and advise. But for now, thank you for having me. I just wanted to say this is an incredibly inspiring day and space to be in, and I will hand back to Helen.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thanks for all the work and support and advice that you've been giving us in the growth of all this. I should mention, maybe Dan said it there already, but Dan and his colleague James have been leading some of our work in climate action as well. We, in case you weren't aware, we have a climate action community of practice, which is a really brilliant space for people active in that field. So it's just a bit of a flavour of some of the things we touch on with Alumni UK. And Fareed, you talked about alumni as change makers. I agree with you. I think we've got such an opportunity to harness these brilliant brains from around the world to make positive change. So thanks so much, Dan. Just to recap, the community of practice is for UK international graduates. The link to join has been sent. But if you are not a UK graduate and you want to work with us, the team is sharing our Alumni UK email address. So get in touch about how you'd like to engage. And I'm sure we'll look at opportunities in the future about how we engage external stakeholders as well. For those who do join our community, what does it mean? It's all about contributing to meaningful projects. It's about connecting with disability inclusion champions worldwide. It's about accessing networking and learning opportunities such as today, and building your own skills and leadership and impact as well. We've got just a few minutes left of this first session of today. We've got more to come later. And I was just taking a quick look at some of the questions that we had coming through. I'm afraid we're not going to have time to get to all of them, but one of the things I pulled out I thought was interesting was, how do we want to think about bringing together those people whose job it is supporting, or maybe not their job, it's their loved ones, etc., or just people in society. How do we support those who are supporting people with disability and bring them together with those with disability, so that it's not just theory that we're talking about, and we bring about actual change where the people experiencing these things are at the center of that change. I don't know if anyone, Priya or Fareed, or even yourself, Dan, as well, if you've got any thoughts. I mean, certainly for our work, we're very much membership led. We are championing the voice of those with disability to make sure that the changes are coming from them, and that we're feeding back specifically to the higher education sector, but further afield as well. But I'd love to hear from others if you've got some thoughts. Fareed, I see you've come off mute. Do you want to say a few words?
Okay, yeah, I think it's important to also, sort of provide that support for what we normally term as caregivers of persons with disability, because sometimes I've heard others suggest elsewhere that we need to even provide some training for people who provide that kind of support, so they understand exactly how to support persons with disability properly. Because one of the issues I've identified, even from some of my trainings, is that people genuinely want to reach out a hand to persons with disability, but they just don't know how to go about it and end up doing it incorrectly. So yes, we can have a plan to also reach out to that group of people. But I guess for now, maybe our primary objective will be to bring together the alumni and other interested advocates for disability, and then we can also reach out to that constituents as well, because they are a key part of making persons with disability succeed. Definitely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Fareed. And I think you're right, it's that kind of prioritization, isn't it, as well, where we've got a massive list of things that we want to focus our attention on. And I saw Priya was nodding along with you there. I think, Priya, you agree, I think, with what Fareed has just said.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, there was kind of a connected comment in the chat there, where somebody was saying, we've been talking a lot about students and alumni with disability, but actually we need to consider those staff as well in teaching institutions who themselves have differing needs, and what support is there for them. So I might just kind of leave that one there as for people to think about, but I think it is another sort of community that we shouldn't forget about, certainly. And I'm sure maybe in the session later in tertiary education they may well touch on that piece. There was another question about how do we hear about more events like this. So today is the launch of our community of practice. So we hope that we'll have a lot more exciting initiatives coming up, as led by our steering group members. If you want to hear about those, if you're an alum, then you can sign up to the community of practice and you'll receive dedicated communications. We share these things via our Alumni UK bulletin as well. And for those of you who are not part of the alumni community, the best way to hear from Alumni UK is to follow us on LinkedIn, if you're able to do that. Hopefully one of my colleagues can share the link with you in the chat. We have a showcasing page, and any upcoming initiatives we share there with you to be able to access. That's probably the easiest way at the moment for you to connect with us, and the email address is there for you too. So we've just got a couple of minutes left, which leaves me just enough time to say a huge thank you to Priya, to Farid, and to Dan, and to Mark as well. Thank you ever so much. And you've been such an engaged audience, everybody. Thank you. Like, that makes such a difference to online events where we're not able to be in the same room as each other physically. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I do hope that some of you will have, I know it's a long day today of sessions, but I hope you'll be able to take some time to dip in and out of our upcoming sessions. There's really, really more brilliant speakers to come. Just as a reminder, we now have 1 hour break for you to network with each other in the lobby online, to check out our videos, to get yourself some food and drink, or do whatever it is that you need to do. And then do come back and join us at 11 a.m. UK time, so 1 hour's time, for our panel discussion on building inclusive workplaces. So this is going to be relevant to everybody, no matter who you are. It's a conversation led by leading disability specialists and practitioners from around the world, from UK to Nigeria and beyond. And they're going to be giving evidence-based approaches to workplace inclusion. So I'm excited about that one. Thank you again, and we'll see you at the next session, everybody.
Thank you so much, Helen. You've done a great job.
Thanks, Priyasha. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See you.
Nice one. Well done, Helen.
Thanks, Dan.